Hello, my name is Carlos Domenech. I'm a master gardener with the Harris County Master Gardener Association. I love to make compost. Actually, I do a presentation through the Green Thumb series, and I have the presentation which we go through the basics and kind of more of the theory of how to make compost. Today, we are gonna build a pile. Together, we're just gonna do it so you can go home and start your pile. What I did, I brought all the materials that I normally put in the pile. They're in bags just out of convenience. This is my favorite container. It's made out of wire. You can buy it at the hardware store. If you get the wire that is 36 inches tall and you cut 11 feet in length, you tie it up, that is a great size because that's very close to a cubic yard. And when you're mixing your materials and the heat that is generated through the microbial activity in a container of that size, it's more efficiently used than in smaller containers where most of the heat just goes away. So the container or no container or whatever container you want to use, if I'm using this kind of container sitting on the ground, I always start the piles with branches and little twigs so I can guarantee good drainage at the bottom of the pile and some air movement as well. The materials I normally use are just grass from my front yard, brown leaves, mainly from my sycamore trees, and I collect materials from the kitchen. And I do have this nice container that my wife bought many years ago. Sometimes if you don't have a container, you can use other containers. And in this case, this one is just a reuse container from a restaurant, and it's made of cardboard. So that cardboard is going to go in the pile as well. These are what happens sometimes, especially during the warmer months, is that everything turns green. And then you don't have the brown leaves unless you save them like I do. But at some point you might run out of brown leaves, and you can use shredded paper like this, and that will provide the carbon. When we start mixing the materials, we're going to talk about how and why we mix them like that. And of course, the microbes that are going to be in the pile breaking down the materials, they're going to release some energy. So we can use thermometers to kind of monitor the activity in the pile. This is from just deep frying thermometer, and you can use one like this. They're very inexpensive, they're not as long, or you can get a compost thermometer with a sturdier body for you to monitor what is going inside the pile. The best time to water your materials is when you're building the pile, and that's what we're going to do. Every time we add a layer of brown leaves, we're going to get it wet, and you might have to get your pile wet again if it's not raining. At some point you're going to have to turn it. Those are also important things that you have to do to keep the microbes in the pile happy and working really hard to just break down those materials. So the first thing we're going to do, we're just going to add the branches at the bottom of the pile. 2-3 inches should be more than enough. That's very good. See? We might want to add some brown leaves on top of that layer. just to set the material here ready for the first layer of green material. Of course, we're going to be combining these materials, trying to provide the microbes with the not only the materials they want to break down, but also we want to provide the materials in a balanced way. So there's mainly two components, and we have talked about this before. I'm sure you have heard about this before. There are mainly two components: the nitrogen-rich materials, which are usually the greens, like for example the kitchen waste and the fresh cut grass, and then of course the carbon-rich materials, which are the brown leaves. And in this case, now that I have the bottom of my pile ready to go, I'm going to add a layer of grass, nitrogen-rich material. Woo, nice and fresh. Okay. With the grass, it's usually 1 portion of grass to 1.5 portions of brown leaves. So I have, let's say, almost half in there. And again, at some point, usually in the summer, you're going to run out of brown leaves. All you're going to have left are going to be, everything is going to be green. Everything is going to be nitrogen rich. So if you don't have brown leaves, you can use other sources of carbon in your mix. And an easy one is shredded paper. In this case, I had some old brown bags that I cut. So you can use that as a source of carbon. Remember to always wet the brown leaves, in this case the paper too. Just get it wet. And then we're ready to add the kitchen scraps. And with kitchen scraps, it's the ratio will be like 1 container, this size container, and 1.5 bags of brown leaves. And again, if you don't have a container, you can improvise with the ice cream containers. Just collect the materials, kitchen scraps, and go and add them to the pile. And when you do that, remember to add the carbon-rich component. So bring your kitchen scraps, have your brown leaves, shredded paper, or any other source of carbon that you might have available, and mix them. The microbes, they're going to need the nitrogen-rich materials and the carbon materials to do their jobs, which is to multiply and break down all the materials in the pile. Okay, so I'll get that wet one more time. Nice wet. We're just going to add just put a little bit of brown leaves here. I always want to make sure that when I have added kitchen scraps, that everything is covered. That will keep you from having flies and other insects kind of bothering your pile. So always make sure it's completely covered. You get it wet, and then you're ready for the next layer of kitchen scraps. A lot of coffee grounds in there. That's in. We're just going to cover it up with more brown leaves. A lot of brown leaves. If you're going to go wrong on the amounts of the materials, go run on the side of a lot of brown. A lot of brown, it doesn't hurt as much as a lot of green or nitrogen rich. Wow, I still have a little bit more. So I feel like we can finish up this pile today. Look at that. Okay? That is very good. So we're gonna get it wet one more time. And that compost pile is ready. 2-3 days, we'll check the temperature on it. And it's probably gonna be 120, 130, 140, and maybe up to 150 degrees, which is perfect, and it's gonna stay hot for a few days. You can keep looking at the temperature every other day. When you notice that it's going down, it might be time for you to check for moisture. If it feels wet or moist enough, it's not dry out, then maybe the microbes are going to need more air, and then it's going to be time for you to turn the pile. With this kind of container, it's very easy. You can lift the container, put it on the side, and turn the things on. Just toss them back into the container, and they'll catch air. Some people will just wait 2 weeks. Check the temperature if you want, but just wait 2 weeks and then start turning it, and you can do that every 2 weeks until the pile just goes down. Once the materials that you have, whatever is left, it's something that you cannot tell what it is. Like in this case, obviously I can tell this is a leaf, but when you cannot tell what they are, those materials in the pile, then that pile is finished. And that is compost, and is ready for you to use. Okay? Very good.